Hello, everybody. Welcome back, finally, to Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast. Did you miss us? I missed us. I'm Charles. Yep, I miss you too. I'm Charles. She's Zan.
I'm Zan. Welcome back. Welcome back to America, Charles.
Exactly. Yes, back in the United States. Back for a cup of Good Morning America.
Good morning. We sure do need a good wake me up, don't we?
But only after 9:30. or if you're my cat Keiko, you wake me up at 5 o'clock in the morning by jumping on my head because, hey, you've missed me apparently.
Because that's what cats do.
That's what cats do. So yeah, back from my world tour sort of world tour, it was Scotland and London, but yeah, back from that, had a great time and was very a little twitchy by going through withdrawal with no Twin Peaks because of being overseas and the Showtime Anytime app being region locked.
Oh my goodness.
As of course the finale is airing, but Zan was kind enough to offer to let me view it through my tiny little phone through tiny Skype. And I appreciate that offer, so I want to publicly thank you for that, for tempting me like nobody's business, because that was a huge temptation. but I wanted to watch it right, so I've watched the finale. Zan obviously has watched the finale by now. Mm-hmm. But we're going to try to avoid that whenever possible. Some things may slip through, but because we still have to catch up from what we've, because of taking off for a couple weeks here. So today we're going to talk about The Return Part 15. If you remember that episode from way back in August 20th, 2017. This was a big episode for a number of reasons, and a bit tragic at the end. I knew we were in for something tragic, because we started off with something beautiful and amazing, and you know this. Anytime we see something beautiful and heartfelt, it's immediately followed by something horrible. And that's what we got with this.
Twin Peaks way.
That's basically, yeah. So we're going to talk about that. So without any further ado or don't, let's get started. Bear with me, I'm running on a little jet lag, so if I seem a little loopy, that's why. This is, so let's start with, of course, true love is giving the other what makes them most happy. And that is...
I love you so much, but I have been a selfish bitch all these years.
I was going to use that line, but it would seem a little odd coming from me, I think. But yeah, so Nadine and Ed finally have a little chat. And so Wendy Robie finally gets a chance to, gets a decent scene in this show. Apart from that little bit with Dr. Amp himself.
She's done so well just staring at the computer over her smoothie, just looking longingly.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, Dr. Amp made her think about things and what's right and what needs to happen. So she picks up her golden shit shovel and walks from home through town.
I love that she can't talk to
Big Ed.
She goes to Big Ed's gas farm, but I love the fact that she can't just talk to him on her own. She has to carry the shovel with her.
It's a symbolic item for what brought her to this decision, that she's going to shovel her way out of the shit.
Yes.
And she's going to shovel Ed out of it too. So she walks from home through town to get to Big Ed's gas farm, which is apparently a different house, because didn't they used to live next to the...
That's what I thought.
Or did she walk from... Oh, it was during the day. She probably walked from Run Silent, Run Drapes.
Yes. She probably walked from her
She's downtown.
store. Yeah, that
She
makes
probably walked from the
that
store
makes
instead of
that
the
makes
house.
much more sense because she probably watched Dr. Amp, then walked over.
Right, exactly. So she walks up with the shovel and she tells Ed how much she loves him, but how obvious it is that he has loved Norma all these years and she's been keeping them apart and that's wrong. And she's setting him free to go be with Norma. And so she says, go run to her, you big lug. And Ed, of course, being amazing, just says, "Now, Nadine, darling, what are you talking about?" It's
Yeah,
just sort of,
yeah. Ed is
this has
basic.
been a long time.
Ed is basically, wait, what? What?
Yeah,
Are
and
you
he spent a
sure?
long time with Nadine. He spent
Because
a long time with Nadine being very flaky,
yeah,
and so
because he's basically had the rug yanked out from under his feet before. Because remember
a
when
couple of times.
back in the original series, yeah, if you remember, obviously, he was going to hook up with Norma because Nadine was hooked up with Mike, the a-hole boyfriend, and
hmm Mr. Bonehead boyfriend.
Mr. Bonehead boyfriend. Thank you for correcting me. And so everything looked great there until Nadine regained her memory and freaked out on him again. And
What's she doing?
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and Ed is at that point throws up his hands, is like, of course. And apparently he's been like that for
hmm
25 years, and only
And that's
now,
because Ed does what he thinks is the right thing.
yeah.
Okay, so your high school girlfriend runs
hmm
off with another guy. So what do? You take another girl on a hunting trip and shoot her eyeball out. So then when you do that, you got to marry her, right? You can't just break up with
Accidentally,
her.
yeah,
Well, yes, accidentally. I'm not saying that Ed did it on
right.
purpose. I'm just saying that when you shoot a woman's eye out,
Yeah,
you probably should marry her
you're kind of obligated at that point, I would
at
think.
that point. Yes, and so then when you're about to get a divorce and she gets her memory back and has no idea that you're getting a divorce, you got to stick with her.
hmm
And apparently Nadine has come to the realization that she used that to her advantage a little bit more than she should have.
I thought that was surprisingly self-aware because yeah, she did use that to her advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about, yeah, I've been such a selfish bitch to you all these years, and and she talks about how Ed did the right thing. He stayed with her, and she acknowledged that.
Right.
So now she's just, I
Because he's
think,
such a good man.
right. So now it's like instead of freaking out like she normally does historically, now she's come to this realization, hey, I want to be with Dr. Amp. You want to be with Norma. Let's just call the whole thing off and go our separate ways.
Let's
Amicably.
call it a day. It's about time.
Yeah.
Yes, amicably. Because that's the thing. Even when Ed was married to Nadine and she was not always nice to him and very flaky and very crazy, he still took care of her. And I
Right.
don't mean just in a, financial husband kind of a way. He has never not been concerned about Nadine. He's never not cared about her.
Right.
So that when
Uh,
she was in the hospital and he would sing to her, Ed's a very sweet man.
Yeah, I think it's just he feels that nobody else would look out for her, and he's I don't know if it's just that he has this personal code that he feels like even though he has, he wants Norma, he feels like, okay, because of these circumstances, I can't allow myself to have what I want. And
He has a sense of duty,
yeah,
it's
it's
almost like a sense of atonement that he has to atone for something
yeah, I mean,
when it comes to Nadine.
there's some obligation there, but yeah, I think you're right. I think there is atonement there as well. Maybe he feels guilty, and she talked about the guilt that
Yes.
so yeah, I thought that was, like, wow, we're actually like these two are actually having an honest conversation for once. It was very
Right.
surprising.
It's a moment of lucidity from
Yeah,
Nadine. But
yeah.
it's like, do you know the story, the Steinbeck story, Cannery Row?
No. I mean, I've heard of it,
Okay.
but I'm not familiar with it.
It's a one of the characters is this scientist named they just call him Doc,
Right.
and he's a marine biologist, and there's a guy that lives in the same on the row is what they say, and his they call him the seer. He's a homeless guy that calls himself the seer, like he can see things and he knows people, things like that. And Doc always makes sure he has a place to live and food, and always takes care of him because years and years ago, he and Doc were ball players, and the
Okay.
reason the seer is a crazy man who doesn't quite understand what's going on in the world is because Doc hit him in the head with a ball,
Oh.
and so Doc has taken it on himself to care for him forever, even if it is from afar, even if he doesn't, um, even if he wants to let him believe that God's taking care of him, or that my friends in the sky will provide, or whatever. And I think that's a lot about Ed is, she is kind of this lonely, crazy, clingy girl, but he did shoot her. She
Right.
only has one eyeball because of him. So he's going to take care of her. And I think even if it, anything, even when Norma and Ed get together, if Nadine needed something, I think that they would help her.
I,
Because Norma's not like catty about Nadine.
right.
She knows that she also knows that Ed is kind of obligated to her in a lot of ways. But if something ever happened, like if um, a car hits,
Yeah.
you know, hits a patch of ice and run silent, run drapes,
Yeah.
and she needs help putting a new window in,
Right.
Ed will do that for her.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
He'll make sure that she's okay, even if they're not together.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, now Nadine talked about how she was jealous toward Norma, but obviously, apparently, yeah, I know Nora. Well, Norma, like she did in the original series, she expressed some frustrations with the circumstances because, she says, well, she says something, if I recall correctly, like, when are we gonna get to have what we want to Ed?
Right. And when you're watching Ed and Nadine, neither one of them's happy in that
No.
marriage. Nadine is happy that she gets to have Big Ed, but that's almost a holdover from high school.
Yeah.
She got Big Ed from Norma, the most beautiful girl in school, and
Right.
here was Nadine, who was also beautiful in her own way, but very, kind of a weirdo, very introverted, very, watching things from afar. And so I think she was sort of riding on that high of being able to get Ed, but
Yeah.
she loved Ed. Ed cared for her, and those are different.
Yeah. It's probably yeah.
And
I,
that's
I think that's a great, like observation because, yeah, it was probably like they've probably had that. She's probably had that jealousy and resentment toward Norma since high school.
mhm.
Like maybe Norma was the most popular girl, Nadine less so, and so yeah, it was just more like, hey, I've got him, you don't have him. I have something you don't have, and
Right.
so I'm gonna hold on to him whether I want him or not. I'm just not gonna let you have him.
Or I'm going to
So
hold on to him whether or not I'm making him happy. It doesn't matter. I've got him.
right,
And Ed is an honorable man with a sense of duty, and not only is he not going to break up his own marriage, he's not going to try and take another man's wife,
right,
even if that other man is Hank Jennings, and he would take your wife in a second. So, but
yeah,
yeah, Ed's a good man, and that's the thing. That's the thing about Ed is that Nadine knows that he loves Norma, and he always has and always will, and he knows that, and she also knows that he cares for her and will take care of her. But Ed cares for everybody.
yeah,
Ed's always there to help out, and he's always there to try and do the right thing. So, what she's trying to have that's different than everybody else is what Norma has and nobody else can have. And she finally realizes that, and realizes that what she wants is for Ed to love her the way she loves him, and that's not going to happen because that's how he loves Norma. And so now it's time for her to give Ed something.
yep.
So I'm giving you
She's
your freedom.
Ed, you are free. So, now I like that Ed even still gives her another chance. he's like, now, honey, you say these things today, but you may regret this tomorrow.
And
So
she says,
like,
I
no,
want
it's
to. I
like,
had plenty of time to think about it.
yeah, like may expecting like, hey, sometimes you kind of flip back on things. So are
Or,
you sure? Because I don't want
right.
to, like, all right, you're Lucy, and you've pulled the football away from me before, and I don't want to fall for this again.
Well, and he's seen it happen before too. He's
Yeah,
been ready to break up with her, and then something happens, and she doesn't remember talking about breaking up with him.
yeah.
So he's had this hope
He's
before. He
he's
doesn't
a,
want it
he's a little
dashed
gun
again.
shy, I think, at this point with
A
her.
little bit, yeah.
Understandably so. So he hops in his little goldish truck, drives on over to the Double R Diner. Says, as the Otis Redding music begins to play,
Hmm.
I've been loving you too long, and so he tells Norma that, hey, Nadine just gave me the green light.
And Norma says,
I
"I'm
gotta,
sorry,
yes,
Walter's here."
yeah. So, yeah, so I think this probably deserves this at this point. This is probably how Ed is feeling at this point.
Oh, I'm so excited! I
I
can't
figure
wait to hear this.
it's been a while since you've heard this.
Yes,
Oh, come on, you. Yeah.
yes.
So,
Ed's
so
feeling the mental equivalent of losing at Plinko.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. He goes over to the counter. The waitress there asks him what he wants. He goes, "Give me a coffee," and then he
And
mutters,
a
"And a
cyanide
cyanide tablet." Exactly. Which is exactly pretty much how we're all feeling at this point. It's like, oh no, it's like
Oh
not
no!
again. So we thought that like Lynch might leave it there. David Lynch might leave it there, but he goes over back to Norma, and she's there with Walter,
Hmm.
and that tells him, like, hey, I'm going to exercise an option on my contract, and I'm going to buy out my share of the diners, the chain.
She's going to let him buy her
Oh,
out,
that's
so
right.
that
I'm
way
sorry.
she doesn't have to.
That's right. That's right. You're right. I got it backwards.
She doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't have
You're
to
right.
bend to their
Right.
crappy ingredients rules that they're
Exactly.
trying to do.
Yeah. So you can go be the knockoff double R. I'm gonna
Hmm.
keep the original double R, and I don't want to be in the franchise business anymore. So I'm gonna take care of my family. And old Grant Goodeve is kind of looking at her through his pearly white teeth, going, "Er?" Tilts his head, and
Yeah.
not really getting it. But apparently
She says, "I
she,
thought you." And Walter says to her, "I thought you didn't have a family." She said, "No, I have a wonderful family, and it's time I take care of them."
yeah, and she's talking, of course, about the town, Twin Peaks, her
Pretty
customers,
much. Yep.
and
I was kind of hoping we
and
would
it kind of goes
see her
whoosh.
sister.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
Nope, not so much. So so at this point, Walter presumably walks off into the sunset, and we cut back to Ed. Ed is still sitting there at the counter. He's got his eyes closed. I have to think he's probably eavesdropping at this point,
or at least trying to.
or he's trying to, exactly. So he's sitting there. He feels the gentle touch of Norma's hands on his back,
Hmm.
going up to his shoulders, and that little tiny hint of a smile creeps into his stone-like face.
Oh, it's so exciting.
And the Otis Redding begins to build, and yep. So she, like he turns to her and says, "Marry me," and
Of course I will.
we're all, yay! Finally, finally, these crazy kids finally got their act together, And
What is it?
And
Like
Shelley's off in
40
the
years after
corner,
high school?
watching this, going about damn time.
Mm-hmm. About damn time. Exactly.
And so, but
She's
she's smiling, everybody's happy, and then the music's building and it cuts outside. We see some nice puffy clouds that look all angelic. And
the next day.
yeah, and so at this point, both of us, being longtime Twin Peaks fans, know all too well once you have this great moment of happiness on this show, something really horrible is about to happen.
The highs don't last very long
They
in Twin
don't.
Peaks.
It's like
Yeah.
Lynch and Mark Frost are, like they'll give you that little taste of happiness and then just yank that thing out from under you. Once again.
Exactly. Yes.
So, but at least as far as we know, Norma and Ed finally together. So we got
Together
that.
again,
Get together
finally.
again, yeah. So, so of course, we cut to, of all people, Mr. C, Doppelganger Cooper himself, and in a really interesting sequence, uh, we get another um, steadfast David Lynch driving the highway at night scene as he's driving down the
Hmm.
road, presumably listening for electrical lines nearby,
I would assume.
and like the through telephone wires or electrical wires, what have you. Um, and he ends up going into the like a secluded wooded area, presumably. Now, is this Ghostwood or is this near Ghostwood at this point? I'm not
We
certain.
don't know yet.
Yeah, we're not
We
exactly
don't know
sure
yet
where he
where this
is,
is.
but apparently it's in some secluded wooded area. And what's there? Oh, just the convenience store, the one we saw in episode 8.
Oh yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, no big
Just
deal.
a yeah, just a convenience store.
Yeah, the one with the woodsman, got a light. So, yeah, those
That
guys.
one. Yeah, nothing. Yeah. Those are all over the country. They're a chain. There's nothing special about that.
Yeah, those guys. You know those guys.
Yeah, the creepy guys.
Yeah,
Yep.
those guys. So, yeah, um, not sure how the convenience store just pops up anywhere it wants to. So apparently that thing can travel, teleport, whatever.
Hmm.
Somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, I would think. So a woodsman
Yeah. Well,
greets him there at the station. They kind of stare at each other, and then the woodsman leads him up the stairwell outside of the building. Remember, we lived above it. We lived above the convenience store.
I lived above a convenience store, so they go up the stairs,
Yep.
which, as we remember, has the same wallpaper as
Yes.
the room in Fire Walk with Me,
That
where
painting.
Philip Jeffries has been to one of their meetings. Yes, the wallpaper from the room that is the painting that is Laura's room.
Mm-hmm.
And so he walks up the stairs, and then he's in the parking lot of a motel. So this is crazy no way convenience store.
Yeah.
Time, space,
Well,
care
he
in
goes
space.
he goes through he gets led through this what it's kind of superimposed the image of a forest that kind of it's almost like a shortcut through space and
Right.
time or whatever to reach this motel area.
Yeah, it's like the parking lot of a motel, very David Lynchy motel.
Exactly. And so there so yeah, so apparently he goes inside this. Well, actually, I'm trying to remember. Let's see. Okay, so he goes inside there, um, the room, which has the number 8 outside,
Hmm.
which I find interesting because if you turn 8 sideways, well, what does that look like? Infinity.
Infinity.
So symbolism there, just maybe a little bit. And
Little bit.
so apparently, Doppelganger Cooper looking for Philip Jeffries to have a little chat, and um, they they sit down, or basically, where was it here? That they oh yeah, I forgot there was a woman there before that lets him inside the room.
Hmm.
That there was
Yep.
what it looks like some kind of night manager slash landlady type woman.
Right. She's just in her bathrobe, like
Yeah,
she lives at the hotel.
that's true. So yeah, she's probably, but there's been some speculation about who this woman is
Hmm.
online, and one of the popular theories is that, oh, maybe it's Lois Duffy, from the first Blue Rose case,
Oh, yeah.
which I
Good
think is
point.
a really interesting theory, and for lack of more information, I think that's a good thing to run with. But
That could be what this hotel is because that's where
yeah,
Lois Duffy was found,
right,
killing Lois Duffy.
exactly. So maybe it's the other
So
Lois
it's
Duffy.
maybe
Could be the
because
doppelganger
she did just.
Lois, the Tulpa, maybe.
That's all because she did just disappear.
Exactly. So,
Or maybe where she is.
yep. So she basically lets him in to this room. It's We see a fritzing lamp that's kind of, of course, it's Lynch. It's kind of flickering,
Hmm.
and he doesn't see anything, but then like there's like a wall that slides away, like you're drawing a curtain, and there's Philip Jeffries, but he doesn't quite look like we remember him, does he?
No, he's kind of a giant metal teapot bell looking thing, like from the waiting room
Right.
in outer space, where the giant and or fireman
Right.
and where Nido was and where the American Girl was, those giant black
Yeah, big industrial.
steampunky looking, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Because
those
there's like
steampunky
steam.
looking things.
Because yeah, there's like a spout, and like you said, it's like a tea kettle. There's some kind of steam coming out of it, and
Right.
and one thing that like I mentioned to you before we talked about this is like that. Hey, we don't have David Bowie, but apparently he's been replaced by, of all things, a tin machine. If
That's
you're
awesome.
if you're
I did not even think about that.
if you're
That's
a David
awesome.
Bowie fan, you get the tin machine reference. But which I don't know if
Yes.
that was intentional or not, but hey, you could just kind of run with that. Um,
It was around it was around the same time as Twin Peaks that he did the Tin Machine project, so that's
right.
interesting. But yeah, if you've ever wondered how H.P. Lovecraft would have been kept alive in a
Hmm.
steampunk Lovecraftian era,
Yeah,
it's this. It's this consciousness in this giant black
right.
industrial looking
Like
thing that could be could look like a Robbie the Robot prototype with a little teapotty spout that steams when he talks.
yeah, we don't know if
So
there's
it's
actually a
very
we don't
almost literally steampunk.
yeah we don't know if
So
there's actually a physical body inside, or if it's just like a consciousness or what have you. But
right.
somehow he's able to speak, and still has that little southern drawl a little bit.
Hmm.
Doesn't quite sound like David Bowie. Tries to approximate it, but
The accent is there to remind you that
yeah,
this is Philip Jeffries.
exactly. So they kind of talk about, of all things, Judy, as we kind of flash back to that moment in Fire Walk with Me. Like, we're not going to talk about Judy.
We're not going to talk.
We're
We're
going
going
to
to leave
leave
her.
her
We're going
out
to
of
keep her out.
this. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So at this point, and Doppelganger Cooper apparently wants to know who Judy is.
Who
Assumes
is Judy?
exactly. He's very insistent about it, but apparently Philip is not giving up the goods. He tells her, like he puts out like some like smoke signal coordinates. It's like you could find her here, and then he mentions, oh, by the way, you've already met Judy. So this
Hmm.
just kind of irritates Doppelganger Cooper. He's like, okay, who is she? Who's Judy? And then all of a sudden, the that tin machine kind of evaporates from view as a phone begins to ring. And,
Yes.
and Mr. Mr. CEO Doppelganger Cooper answers the phone. Not sure why he answers the phone, and then he gets immediately transported to a phone booth outside the convenience store. So he's kind of back to his original starting point.
Right.
So that happened.
Yes, he finally meets up with Philip Jeffries, and it's still very cryptic. So
yeah, exactly. We're not getting much.
Didn't give us a lot more information.
No, exactly. But it was interesting. Let's put it that way. So,
Yes.
so now that he's back outside, who does he meet of all people? Richard Horn.
Sure.
So Richard has a habit of turning up where you least expect him, and
always where you don't want him.
And always where you don't want him. So apparently, Doppelganger Cooper not really pleased to see his progeny, and we get some confirmation.
Well, and we get confirmation that this is his child. So
yep. Because he talks about that. He admits that Audrey is his mother.
He says, I've seen your picture. You work for the FBI. He's like, where have you seen my picture? Well, my mom had it. Who's your mom? Audrey Horn. And then he just kind of gives him a look. And then he says, all right, well, come with me then.
Yep. So unfortunately, all that theory that we were dreading, it's officially true, unfortunately.
It is officially true. So he takes him to the coordinates on top of that hill.
Yes.
And basically says, okay, you go first.
Well, I think that happened in the next episode.
Is that the next episode?
That was the next episode. Because what he does here, he distracts.
Sorry, everybody, I'm getting.
Yeah, we're kind of jumping ahead there. But I know what you're talking about, though. But yeah.
Yep.
We're kind of jumping ahead. So, he does. Apparently, Richard's holding a gun at his father. So
so if that all happens in the next episode, we still don't have the confirmation that that is Richard's father yet, because we get that in this episode. Yeah.
Well, he talks about that he recognized Doppelganger Cooper from a picture that his mom kept of him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but Richard doesn't mention, I think you're my dad or anything like that. There's something Doppelganger Cooper says to him later that is where we get our confirmation, and that is then in the next episode.
Okay, so that's probably okay.
That's what happens.
All right, got it. So
yeah,
see, I knew we were going to run into this problem, but
I knew this was going to happen.
But that's all right.
Richard.
Richard Shakespeare.
Richard's fault.
It is. Thankfully, he gets his just desserts, but let's just leave it at that.
We're going to leave it at that.
We're going to leave it there. We're not going to talk about Richard. Well, actually,
we're going to keep him out of it.
We're going to talk a little bit about Richard because Doppelganger Cooper does the old, I'm going to hawk a loogie on the pavement and distract you and take your gun away.
Mm-hmm.
Sucker. That old chestnut. Richard is apparently an idiot. So he basically kicks him a couple times just for fun. Tells him to get in the truck, and they hit the road. And that's kind of where we leave them. For now, but obviously, more in the next episode.
We will get back to that. Details at 11.
Exactly. And now here's
Bob. For those of you kids who remember watching the news.
Exactly. And now here's Bob with sports. All right. So we switch scenes all the way to Ghostwood Forest as we catch up with that old lovable Stephen.
Oh, jeez.
And Gersten.
Something's not right with Stephen.
And Gersten. Stephen is not doing quite well. Stephen Burnett. Apparently we pick up with them. They're huddled at a base of a big old tree.
Hmm.
Got to find out what kind of trees these are. They're really something. Um,
Big, majestic.
yeah, Douglas firs. And apparently he's all tweaky from
Very much.
with withdrawal. And oh, guess
Yes.
what? He's got a gun. So
Which is probably, that's fine, right?
yeah,
There's nothing.
that's gonna go well, obviously.
We shouldn't worry about that,
Yeah.
should we?
Oh, and he's loading the gun with a bullet, of all things. So and he's
Yeah.
talking about ending things. So
Hmm.
no red flags here.
Nope.
And
And Gersten is just trying to calm him down and hold him
yeah,
till he can figure out,
yeah, just stop
what.
freaking out and please don't shoot me.
Yes, please
That
don't
would
shoot me. Don't shoot yourself. Don't shoot anybody else.
yeah, don't shoot anybody. That would be great.
Yes.
But apparently Steven's all upset about something that happened that I'm not quite sure what happened to get him in this emotional state, unless it's just.
No, we haven't seen.
So I kind of wonder.
Yeah, we haven't seen him for a
I kind
while.
of wonder if there's a deleted scene maybe here, because we're not quite sure how things got, unless he just freaked out over almost getting killed by Becky when she was going on her
Well,
rampage.
right. I'm a little worried about Becky because I haven't seen her in a while either.
No, we're not quite
So
sure what's up with
what?
Becky.
Yeah, what's going on with that? And is everybody okay? So this is
Yeah, we haven't
this
seen
is a
her since.
concerning scene
Yeah, we haven't seen her since the diner in in the
since the
double
diner got
R.
shot up. Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently he mentioned something that it was something that she did, as in something Becky did.
Right, right. That's why I'm a little worried.
Yeah,
Maybe he was paranoid at the wrong time, and now something's happened. He's done something he shouldn't have, and that's why they're hiding in the woods.
right.
That's what's worrying me.
So with all this going on, who strolls in at this point? Oh, it's just Twin Peaks co-creator Mark Frost.
Yeah, he just shows up.
He just
That's
shows up. Yeah, he's walking his dog, but apparently
mhm.
he's credited as his character from the original series, a character named Cyril Pons, who was a TV news reporter.
Right.
So now, presumably, he's retired, and presumably he's living at the Fat Trout Trailer Park, as we find out later. Um,
Right.
but he comes across Steven and Gersten, and everybody kind of looks at everybody like awkward. And
Yes. Like, what do we do? Okay, what am I supposed to do with this information I just now
yeah,
received?
yeah, it's like, oh, okay, and you've got a gun. I think I'll be going now.
Hmm.
And so Gersten freaks out. Um, she takes off running, hides behind a tree at this point. So she can't really see what's going on, and neither can we because the camera's focused on her. And then we hear a
Right.
gun. Then we hear a gunshot, and we're wondering
Hmm.
at this point, okay, did Steven shoot Cyril or did Steven shoot himself?
Or or what the heck?
Or
Because
what happened?
it
Yeah.
could be anything at this
Or did
point. It
somebody
could be
shoot?
anything.
Yeah, did somebody else just waltz in and shoot? Yeah, we don't know.
Right. Or somebody else there now too. Is whoever it is Stephen actually worried about something real and somebody has finally found him.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So we kind of hang there for a moment. We're not really sure what's going on, and then all of a sudden, we see Cyril walking out of the forest. So we find out,
mhm.
okay, well, Cyril's still alive. So we figure at this
So
point,
that's something good.
well, probably, maybe, um, that Steven's dead, presumably. So,
That's my assumption at
yeah,
this point. Yes.
which no big loss. Hey, had it coming.
No,
So,
it's no particularly big loss, but I am glad that Gersten is okay because I
yeah,
am very sad for what has happened to her, that she has gotten mixed up in addiction and
yeah.
Stephen and
Apparently, everybody that hooks up with Steven it doesn't go well for them. So,
why
um,
else would you hook up with Stephen except that you needed drugs?
exactly.
He has nothing else to offer anybody.
Exactly. So that's probably it. So Cyril ends up like going and hooking up with everybody's favorite hero in Twin Peaks, Carl Rod.
Yeah, everybody's favorite.
and he kind of points over to the like, oh yeah, that guy from that trailer, the one that's
The
always,
guy from over there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently, yeah, that as far as we know, Stephen is no more. He has ceased to be.
He is an ex Stephen.
He is next, Stephen, exactly.
Yes.
He's joined the bleeding choir invisible. So
He
yeah.
wouldn't boom if you put 10,000 volts through him.
No, but maybe Dougie would. Oh, just no.
Oh, you're getting ahead of yourself here,
Yeah,
aren't you?
yeah. Well, I had to. Yeah. It was too tempting. I couldn't resist.
That's true.
But
Yes.
you see what I did there.
Take
Yes, yes, yes.
I see what you did there. You got to take him when you see him. I am well aware of that.
Yep. Got a carpe my diem on that one. Uh, so next, the scene we get is everybody's favorite cool guy because hey, James is still cool. James
Has
goes to
always been cool.
yeah, maybe not so much cool in this scene though, because James
No,
hit
he's not cool in this scene because he's like, why would you go up to somebody that
yes,
you're kind of interested in when she's like, why would you go up to her husband and be like,
yeah,
hey, I'm just here to talk to your wife? It's like, what are you doing, James?
yeah.
What's the matter with you right now?
It was really dumb. So yeah,
It was a really dumb move to
really dumb
start.
move. So James and his wingman Freddie, Mister like pile driver fist guy,
Pretty, pretty one gloves.
Freddie One Gloves, nice. Well, it's better that or Freddie Rubber Fist. Um,
Oh, either way, yeah.
yeah,
Freddie McRubberfist. There we go.
Freddie McRubber Fist. I like that. Let's go with that. Freddie McRubber Fist. So, that's awesome. That needs to catch on. Freddie McRubber Fist.
I
So
hope so.
all right,
Yes, on the internet, make it happen.
hashtag Freddie McRubber Fist.
Hashtag Freddie McRubberfist.
Okay, so yeah, they're at the roadhouse. James, yeah, confronts Renee, that chick he kind of fixates on, and
Yep.
her husband Chuck, which is really not the best time to like talk to someone you're interested in, I would think.
And
Uh,
James should know this
yeah,
from his history of
yeah,
taking other people's girlfriends, basically. And you can't, you know what they say, you can't take what isn't available, sort of a deal.
right,
But at the same time, he knew to leave Bobby the heck alone. I mean, what's his problem here?
yeah, yeah.
Why is he being so dumb?
So Chuck, quite understandably, is not really down with this.
Nope.
Calls James out. Um, James gets knocked down, and because
And they start going on him even when he's on the floor.
so Chuck and his wingman are going after James, 2-on-1.
Hmm.
Freddie at this point decides to step in and lightly punches Chuck and Chuck's friend in the face, and presumably sends them right into like a coma practically.
Right. I
And
was wondering, did he kill these guys? I mean,
yeah.
because there's no such thing as a light punch from Freddie
No,
Freddie
no, no, and
McRubberfist.
apparently these punches were so powerful that it made ZZ Top skip each time
Right.
there was a punch,
Yes,
which I thought was kind
exactly.
of funny. So yeah, as we were listening to "Sharp Dressed Man" by ZZ Top,
Yes, we
uh,
were.
which apparently is the MC's favorite band. Who knew?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's he makes the comment is like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, this is one of my favorite bands or whatever, is ZZ Top, and he's all excited
ZZ
about it.
Top.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care who you are. ZZ Top rocks. ZZ Top is.
I really kind of like that MC on the show.
I do too.
I
I do
like
too.
I think he's pretty cool. Um, once again, David Lynch finding like old people that just are oddly cool, and I kind of dig this guy.
That bodes well for my future.
Like
Maybe I can find some more old people that are weirdly cool.
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, yes, we need to keep David Lynch alive long enough for when we turn old, so that he'll cast us in something.
Yeah, maybe we can do some weird ass stuff like that.
There you go. Um, something to look forward to down the road, I guess. Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah, so their eyes, like the guys that Freddy hit, their eyes are all kind of fluttery and they're kind of foaming at the mouth a little bit.
Yeah, it's not good.
No, it's not good. Um, so yeah, not really looking good for James and Freddy. And of course, where do they end up? In the slammer.
In the
So
slammer
so
with
James is back in jail, just like he was in the Twin Peaks pilot all those years
and
ago.
it's and again, Hawk is putting him there, going like, "Dude, I know you don't really need to be in here, but I have to put you in jail. You guys just, these." And even Freddy's like, "What happened to the guys I hit?" And Hawk says they're both in intensive care.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're in jail with
Well, did you
uh
catch the a little bit of irony in this scene? Because who
uh
is there with Hawk? Bobby Briggs.
that's right.
So
I
Bobby,
wasn't even thinking about that. Yeah.
so Bobby, who was originally locked up with James
Hmm.
in the original series, now Bobby's a
Yeah.
cop and he's locking James up.
Oh yeah, I didn't even catch that. Yeah, I wasn't even
Not
thinking
at,
about that. So
not at all awkward there.
no, that's not awkward at all. But
No, no.
so we've got so James and Freddie are in jail with Drooly McBloodyface,
As opposed to
Nido, and
Freddie
Chad.
McRubberfist.
Well, Freddie McRubberfist is in the cell next to Drooly McBloodyface.
Right.
They're
Nice.
no relation.
No relation.
So
Except nice.
so they're and so we still have Drooly McBloodyface repeating everything everybody says,
Yeah.
which is of course driving Chad insane, which
Yeah.
is fine with me.
Yeah, that's great. Now, I did love that James is finally the first person to take a look at Nido and go, "What the f?"
Yeah, where are her eyes?
Yeah, you would think
What is going on
you would
here?
think more people would be freaked out by this, but apparently
Right,
James is the
right.
only person that has caught on to this. Everybody else just accepted as like, "Hey, we're in a David Lynch TV show. Of course, it's going to be a chick with no eyes." No, we're good.
We live in Twin Peaks.
James,
Hey, how's it going? You want these pajamas?
but James is the one is like actually has an honest reaction, like she has no eyes. What's up with that?
what what is going on here in Twin Peaks jail? And why is Chad in jail? What's
Yeah,
going on?
yeah.
So yes,
Uh,
Chad's still in jail.
I just had to mention that
Excellent.
because I just love the fact that yeah, James catches of all people is the one that catches on.
And I love Freddie. Freddie doesn't want to hurt anybody. He just wants the fighting to stop. He's like, are those guys okay? I mean, he's
Yeah.
actually worried about
He
who
was,
he
I think
punched out.
he was trying to protect James,
Oh yeah,
which
totally.
is what you want from your wingman. But
Yes,
but
exactly.
but yeah, just obviously maybe he should have punched with the other fist. Just saying,
Maybe,
maybe.
maybe.
So
He got
yeah,
the job done. So
so Drooly Bloodyface
mhm.
is parroting everything. Yeah, Chad is basically in hell at this point with all this craziness going on around him, and I'm just enjoying that.
It's so great to watch Chad just be unhappy and squirming.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So, and that's kind of where we leave them, I think, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's where we leave them.
Right. There's still more.
Yeah,
There's still more really McBloody face
yeah, basically,
parroting the chittery noises that Nido
yeah.
is saying.
So we're just kind of like letting that, we're going to let that one simmer on the back burner for a while.
Right.
All right. So our next sequence that of note, Chantal and Hutch, everybody's favorite hit married couple,
Yes, the hit couple.
the hit couple.
Um,
I can't say
yep, we see
hitman or
them.
can't say hitman or hit woman. They're a hit couple, really.
They're a hit couple. Yep.
And so they finally arrive in Vegas, um,
Hmm.
and presumably after they hit the buffet at one of
Well, I
the
don't think so.
casinos. One of the casinos. The Chantal marches right into Duncan Todd's office and shoots him right in the head, blows him away.
Shoots him and what's his name right in the head.
Yeah,
Um,
Roger.
Roger. Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
Shoots him and Roger right in the head, and then Hutch calls her. Um,
Well, apparently she only shot Roger in the stomach or something.
Right. So Hutch calls her. She's walking away talking to Hutch, going like, "Ooh, yeah, French fries."
Mm.
And then she's like, "Oh, hang on a second, baby." And she comes back,
With extra ketchup.
and yes, with extra ketchup. And she comes back and shoots Roger in the head
Yeah.
because Roger's wheezing on the floor.
Yeah.
And
And
so
Chantal
while
is
she's
just all
putting in,
matter of factly like, oh, hold on a second, honey, and puts her phone
yeah,
away, and
hang on a second.
yeah,
Yep.
gotta take care
So
of this.
while she's ordering food, she hears him wheezing and then goes back to shoot him in the head,
Right,
probably
finish it.
exactly like they did with the warden.
Yep.
So
So yeah, so yeah, French fries. Don't spare the ketchup.
two
Uh,
down, one to go.
Two down, one to go. So we pick up with them a little later. With they're sitting in their van under a night sky, enjoying presumably Wendy's. I have to
I
think.
hate when you get these little ketchup packets.
Yeah, exactly. But
That's
he
all they
did.
had, baby.
But he did bring her dessert that she wanted.
I love
So
you, Hutch.
I love you, honey bunny. Oh wait, wrong movie.
Oh, wait a second. Oh, wait. Okay. Yeah.
Did you not think of that when you were watching that the first time? Because I'm just
As
like,
much as I
it's
as
Tim
much as I
it's
love
Tim
Jennifer
Roth.
Jason Leigh,
Yeah.
yeah, as much as I love Jennifer Jason Leigh, I keep thinking to myself, like, God, if Amanda Plummer had been available, this would have been amazing.
Maybe that was maybe Amanda Plummer would have been Lynch's first choice, but because
I don't know, but
it
yeah,
was
that was
it was right out of another Pulp Fiction scene.
exactly.
So
But
I
yeah,
just
so they're sitting eating, talking about how, people kill people all the time. We're no different, and
yeah
um,
yeah
I
they're
haven't
getting
got to
it they're
torture anybody in a long time, and
right.
they're just talking like you would with your spouse sitting, if you're eating in the car, but they're talking about killing and torturing people there.
Exactly. And apparently Chantal's kind of a little jumpy because she hasn't killed anybody in a little while, or
Well, she hasn't tortured anybody.
tortured
She's
anybody in a
killed,
while. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And apparently, yeah, Hutch gets all metaphysical at this point. He's like, or he's talking about like the manifest destiny of America being nihilistic, not biblical,
Hmm.
and what else here? That it was a so-called Christian nation. He's talking about like,
Might as well be thou shalt kill.
well, thou shalt kill, show no mercy, forgive no one, F him in the ass.
Hmm.
So, yep, it's like nation of killers. It's gone on all along, killed all the Indians.
Yep.
So, yeah. But, yeah, Chantal's still, like, not happy. She's like, it's no fun torturing a corpse.
Yes, it's no fun torturing a corpse.
Yeah, which is a great line.
And then she sees Mars in the
Yeah,
sky.
yep. But,
It's just like this. It's like any conversation you've had with somebody when you're just,
right.
it's late at night and you're hungry and all you're eating is fast food. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little darker than most of the conversations I've ever had in my entire life
Exactly.
combined. Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of wonder though that the mention of Mars is like, well, hey, isn't that significant on Twin Peaks?
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
Just wondering.
Yeah.
So from here, we switch back over to Lancelot Court, where Dougie Jones has another slice of chocolate cake.
This I loved. I absolutely love this.
Well, I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people kind of love this at this point.
So Dougie's. It's after dinner.
Yeah.
And Janie E brings him a slice of chocolate cake, and here you go, Dougie. Is it delicious? And he just says, delicious.
Yep.
So
she's talking about how like it's like all our dreams are coming true.
Our dreams are coming true, and then he's eating cake, and he just says, true. And so we watch a little bit of him eating cake, and I will admit that as time goes on,
yeah,
I'm thinking to myself, David Lynch, we don't have time for this.
Exactly. It's like, what episode are we at? We're at episode 15.
15. I don't need to watch Dougie eat the entire piece of cake.
Yeah.
So
mercifully,
yes, winds up playing with the remote and turns the TV on.
Right.
And what's on TV but Sunset Boulevard?
Sunset Boulevard. Now, what is the significance of this, you may ask? Well, apart from being one of David Lynch's favorite films,
And one of
Uh,
the greatest films of all time.
Directed by Billy Wilder, this movie was narrated posthumously by a screenwriter who loses his life after a strange few weeks serving a faded movie star named Norma Desmond. So Norma,
Right. Mm-hmm.
who's trying to develop a comeback vehicle. And the scene that
Yes.
Dougie's watching involves Norma meeting with Cecil B. DeMille about a script.
She keeps getting phone calls from the studio,
Yeah,
and she assumes that it's Gordon Cole, not Gordon Cole, but she assumes it's Cecil B. DeMille calling her to talk about her horrible
right,
screenplay, but it's somebody named Gordon Cole
right,
trying to see if he can borrow her car. She has an old car that he thinks would be perfect for a movie, so he's been trying to see if he can rent it from her. So Cecil B. DeMille is pretty much just humoring Norma Desmond throughout this whole thing. She's written this. Norma Desmond, played by Gloria Swanson,
yeah,
who is, this movie is 1950. She's 50 years old in this movie, and she is an aging silent movie star. And as we all know, there were not a lot of silent movie stars. The success rate of silent movie stars into talkies was lower than child actors into adult acting.
right.
You've got, like there's maybe occasionally a Ron Howard, but it doesn't happen that much. So a lot of around the time that talkie movies came out was also when Income Tax came out. So
Awkward.
we had all these people, right? We had all of these people who were making boatloads of money in the teens and 20s.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden they're taxed on it, and they can't make money anymore because they don't. Silent film acting and talkie film acting, very, very different things. And a lot of the silent movie actors had bad voices. They overacted because they're used to acting
right. Because
facially, not used to acting.
you have to act physically as opposed to using
Right.
dialect, uh, and you're
Exactly.
and enunciating. Yeah,
Exactly. And people wanted to see dancers and singers, and because you could have sounds in movies now. So
right.
these people who were in these really overly melodramatic silent movies kind of weren't viable anymore. If you've ever seen Singing in the Rain, that's kind of exactly what happened.
Yeah,
Just less funny. Where you try to make a movie into a talkie, and it just is not. It's not the right thing. And so this is what happened with Norma Desmond, is that she stopped getting parts. And around the time, and talkies came out, in the first talkie movie was 1928, and then it just sort of, there was never, the only person who ever really hung on to the silent movie format was Charlie Chaplin, because as Charlie Chaplin said, if the tramp talks, he dies. There's nothing
right.
for him vocally. He's not a vocal comic. He's not a vocal character. So he hung on to that into the 30s a little too long, but then of course,
Yeah, but by this time,
he had some other problems.
Yeah, that's true. And then of course that was when the Marx Brothers took off.
Right, the Marx Brothers took off. He had a paternity suit, House on American Activities, flies to Europe. So it was not. Yeah, Charlie Chaplin was not as bad as some other people had it, but
And then his granddaughter ended up marrying Rob Stark on Game of Thrones.
That's right. That's actually
Una Chaplin. Yeah.
Yeah, Una Chaplin. And so he made it out a little better than other people did, but there are a lot of those comedians who didn't make it out of the 30s. They didn't stay alive out of the 30s, and not just comedians, but a lot of silent film actors. They drank themselves to death. They were penniless,
right,
and drank themselves to death, or heroined themselves to death, or whatever, because it wasn't a viable medium for them anymore, and they lost all their money. So this is a sort of a Norma Desmond character, and
very tragic. Yeah,
very tragic, very melodramatic, and so has this delusional thing of doing a comeback. And Cecil B. DeMille had directed her pictures when she was in the movies. And so she goes to see him, and he's like, Norma, what are you doing here? She's like, well, you had Gordon Cole call me. And he's just sort of pitying her at this point and humoring her. He knows he's not going to make, she's brought him this script that she wrote called Salome, which was a historical drama. And that in 1950, that wasn't as big of a thing. Those sort of grandiose historical pictures weren't really the thing.
Right.
It was musicals at the time.
Right.
That's
These
musicals, gangster pictures.
these big elaborate production numbers,
Right. They weren't serious like they were. It
or
wasn't,
things like
Nation.
or like the James Cagney and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. At that point, yeah, James Cagney, I believe White Heat was 1949.
Right.
And even Cagney was getting older. I think 53 was Love Me or Leave Me, which is sort of a musical. So, it's gowns and numbers and things like that. It's not necessarily Birth of a Nation kind of thing. I mean, we have, in the 60s, we wind up with Cleopatra, but it's, at this point, that's not really what people want to see. And she's writing a movie like it's a silent movie. She's not doing what she needs to be doing.
Right.
So he says to his assistant, "Get me Gordon Cole. Tell him to forget about her car. I'll buy him 100 cars. Just don't call her again." And so that's the scene that comes on. And, and I see Sunset Boulevard come on. I'm like, it's the real Gordon Cole. This is what's going to do it. And so then he says, "Get me Gordon Cole."
And obviously David Lynch had named his character after that movie, Sunset Boulevard.
Exactly. That's where the name of Gordon Cole comes from.
Right.
So he perks up, sort of looks around the room, sees an outlet.
He being Dougie, of course.
He being Dougie, yes.
Yeah.
We're back in Vegas here.
Right.
And he walks over to the outlet with his fork and sticks his fork in the outlet and electrocutes himself.
I love it that he sticks the pointy end first. That doesn't quite do the trick. So then he sticks the blunt end into the outlet, jiggles it all around, and then does the hokey pokey, turns himself around, and then shorts out the electric. Yeah, and the lights flicker out, and Janie E is off in the kitchen watching this, going horrified,
screaming, and Sonny Jim is like, "Mom, what was that?"
Yep. Does her best Laura Palmer scream, and and that's pretty much it. So
that's where we're left with Dougie. He's trying to get back to where he came from.
And the hopes of Dale Cooper fans rise considerably at this point.
Yes. Yes.
So
this could mean good things for us.
And we'll just leave that there for those who are following along in order.
And we'll talk about that next week.
Exactly. Tease. It's going to be good. So,
it's going to be okay.
Yeah, exactly. Which is one of the rare things you could say about Twin Peaks.
Right.
So, unfortunately, at this point, things take a really dark, tragic turn. And, yeah. So, we switch back to Twin Peaks, where Deputy Chief Hawk gets another phone call from Margaret Lanterman, the log lady, and as it turns out, it's her last phone call. And it's this was a very heartbreaking scene because obviously we're both fans of the log lady, and I'm sure a lot of you out there are fans of Log Lady. So, and knowing that...
See what I'm wearing today?
Yes. So Zan is wearing, for those who can't see, her Log Lady necklace, which is very fitting. I should have had my Log Lady Funko figure, but unfortunately it's out of reach. But you get the idea. So she's talking to Hawk, and she tells Hawk, I'm dying.
I'm dying.
And
there's some fear in letting go.
Which could also be a metaphor for fans of the show saying goodbye to the show, as well, or to her character,
or it could be a metaphor for or for Catherine Coulson, because I am wondering when this was filmed and how soon after this she actually did pass away, and that was what made this so heartbreaking. Because can you imagine knowing you're dying and giving this soliloquy? That is going to be immortalized forever, and that everyone is going to just break when they hear it. I think that in awe of her courage to be able to,
I was just about to say
in
that.
character, say all of these things, because this is like her last. This
Yeah.
is not just Margaret Lanterman's moment. This is Catherine Coulson's last moment.
Yeah, and she's kind of speaking to everyone through her character at this point. So that was, yeah,
Exactly.
it's just an amazing, it's not really a performance, really. It's life, the end of life.
And it was very much like watching David Bowie's last video,
Right.
where he knows he's going, and this is what he's done to say goodbye to the world. And it was heart wrenching.
Yeah,
She did a fantastic job. And like I said, I don't know. I would like to hope that in, at least 100 years from now, when I'm at the end of my time, that I can be as brave as she was facing what she's facing.
yeah, we can,
I'm just in absolute awe of Catherine Coulson after this.
yeah, it was. It was stunning to watch this. Um,
And when she's done,
and very, very sad, of course.
very, very sad. And then when she's done, she just says, "Good night, Hawk."
Yeah, she said, and then
You tell the rest of I can't I
that's
can't tell
okay.
you
That's
tell the
okay.
rest.
That's okay. It's okay. So yeah, and Hawk says, "Good night, Margaret," and there's no response. And then Hawk says these two words that are just so powerful. He says, "Goodbye, Margaret," and um, we cut to later a little bit. We see the light inside her cabin in the woods
Turns off.
turns off, just dims out into darkness, and then there's kind of a pause, a pregnant pause, and then we see Hawk in like the sheriff station conference room there with Andy, Lucy, Bobby, and Sheriff Truman,
Yeah,
and
he's called everybody in there,
he's
and,
called
and
everyone.
the room only has like a desk light on. It
Right,
doesn't have the
right.
overhead lights
Yeah,
on.
it's very dimly lit. And Sheriff Truman's sitting there at the table. Has his hat on. And so Hawk says, that Margaret Lanterman, the log lady, is dead. And Lucy is just very visibly upset by this. Tears are coming down her
Right.
face.
The
And there's
log lady's dead?
yeah. And then there's a it's very subtle. You see Sheriff Truman take off his hat, which
Hmm.
is normally what you do when you're paying tribute to someone out of respect.
Yes.
And so it's just like this moment of acceptance. It's this very solemn moment that you rarely get on the show. And yeah, it was just very powerful, I thought.
It was very, very powerful, and I wonder how soon after she actually passed away this was filmed,
Yeah, we don't know.
because it seems very real for the characters and the people as well. And
For all we know, those could be
it
real tears coming out of Kimmy Robertson's face.
could very well be. And I don't think that
Yeah,
um, it would have been difficult for David Lynch to make this emotional. I mean, he and Catherine Coulson
right.
had been friends for almost 50 years at this point.
Yeah,
So
and we
they
shouldn't.
were
Yeah,
they'd they'd known each other a very, very long time. Catherine Coulson, um, her ex-husband was Jack Nance.
right,
So
right,
these are people that have been with David Lynch for a very, very long time. And so this had to have been, I mean, he had to have been wrecked when this
right.
happened. As wrecked as the rest of us were, I can't even imagine what David Lynch was going through having to film that.
Yeah, and
So
for anyone wondering, yes, Zan is understandably visibly upset herself as we're
Zan's going
talking
to be
about.
crying probably at least once in every of our next episodes.
Probably,
So
probably.
just don't, yeah, just get used to it.
That's okay. This is why we love you, Zan.
Thank you. I love
Yeah,
you too.
don't be ashamed at all. You-
Well, This was not an episode that I was able to watch
Yeah.
the night it aired. So I think I watched it a couple of days later, and
Right.
my friend Troy, he's like, buckle up because this is going to hurt like hell.
Yeah.
And
It
I was
is.
like, oh shit, what's happening? And
It's
then
it's a bit
when
of
I
a
saw her, I was like, oh, damn it.
yeah. It's a bit of a gut punch this episode. One
Yeah,
other
it is.
thing.
And we knew it was going to happen, but
Yeah.
it was just done
Yeah.
so poignantly.
And I was
It was
just,
just beautiful.
and we should be thankful that we got as many scenes with her in the return as we did, because
Absolutely.
as we
We
talked
should be.
about, when when she was featured in the first episode, that we thought, well, okay, that's it. That could be it. It could be just one scene, and thankfully
Right. Like
we got several more, including this
we
scene,
did.
and so that's a testament to her that she was able
Absolutely.
to have the strength to be able, because I'm pretty sure that oxygen that those tubes that she was wearing
It's
in her
real.
nose were real, and yeah, so it was just
And
it's
she really
amazing.
had lost her hair and
Yeah,
everything,
but
that
she
and
wasn't
she
trying
was
to
really
hide,
that brave.
but she wasn't wearing a wig. She was just being very honest about it, and
She
so
just
it's
still was the log lady with those red glasses.
yeah.
I loved it.
Well,
I loved it.
that's her signature, that and a log. So yeah.
Yep. My log has turned to gold.
Yeah. And for those who noticed in the credits of this episode, uh, now Lynch had done a in memory of Catherine Coulson during her first appearance
Right.
uh, in the credits. So this time he does in memory of Margaret Lanterman. So
I know. I thought that was. I
he
thought that
paid
was really interesting.
so her character, and this is the first time that the fictional character um, got a memorial in the credits. So I thought that was a
She
very nice.
gets 2 tributes.
Yeah, two tributes. So I thought that was a very nice
Yeah, and
touch.
she absolutely deserved them.
I did not
Absolutely.
expect that at all, and I thought we would just see another in memory of Catherine Coulson. We'd just see it again, but this one was a memory to her character because it's kind of an iconic character, especially on Twin Peaks. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, she's got her own Funko, she's got her own action figures, she's got T-shirts. So,
Well, and even on the old soundtrack, the log gets its own entry when they're showing you all the characters.
that's true.
So
So it's a credit that she's become a pop culture icon, which is
she has. She
pretty.
has.
So so yeah, but obviously our heart goes out to Catherine Coulson and her family and everyone that knew her.
Everyone that knew and loved her, absolutely.
So
And I'm sure it's hard to watch that for them, but at least they have this.
exactly.
They'll always have this.
So we're not trying to bring everybody down. Just we want to give it its proper respect. So
Absolutely.
all right.
Yes.
So let's move on.
I need a little
Yeah, you need a little
Little hug.
porg. You need a little porg therapy.
yes, Zan has a porg problem, for those
Yeah,
of you
yeah. So for those
who
who don't know
are
what a porg,
Star Wars fans as well.
yeah, for those who don't know what a porg is, yeah, Suzanne has procured one of the very first stuffed porgs for Star Wars: The Last Jedi that's coming out in November or December, I believe. So so she's jumped on that bandwagon rather quickly.
I have, and if you're wondering what it looks like, if you haven't seen one yet, it's basically if an owl and a penguin
Right. With
went
very
through
with,
went through Seth
with
Brundle's transporter
yep,
together.
with very
Without a porg.
big doughy eyes and
Mhm.
like a big, like pouty mouth. So yeah,
He cures whatever ails you.
little pork security blanket.
Yeah, I need a little porg hug right now.
Aw, very very touching. All right, so so let's move on. We pick back up with
Yes,
Audrey.
please.
Yeah, we pick back up with Audrey Horne, who is this close to finally going out that door.
Mhm.
Wherever,
Of course, I'm going out. I'm going to need my jacket.
wherever she is, she's trying to get to the roadhouse to find Billy. Remember Billy? And
Mhm.
we haven't, or maybe we already have kind of met. Charlie was supposed to drive her to the roadhouse, and he's ready to go. He's got his coat on, but Audrey apparently is dawdling a little bit too much for his
Coat's coming
liking.
off.
So he
Yep.
tells her, yeah, if you don't put on your coat, I'm taking mine off. And she didn't put on her coat for whatever reason. So she's not ready to go. For those of you maybe
Mm-hmm.
picking up, looking for some symbolism here. And so he takes off. He's like, all right, coat's coming off. And
Do you have any idea how much I effing hate you?
yeah, Audrey kind of unloads on Charlie at this point.
She just unleashes at him and just lunges at him
Well,
like she's gonna kill him.
well, before she tries to strangle him, she says, "I never really saw you before the way I'm seeing you now. I'm meeting a
Mm-hmm.
different person." And she says, "Who are you, Charlie?" And almost kind of like, hey, how Laura said, "Who
Who
are
are you
you?"
really?
Yeah.
Yep.
So then
And
she proceeds to strangle Charlie.
yes, then
And
she lunges at him. Do you have any idea how much I hate you?
yeah, and that's kind of where we're left with Audrey. So
Yep.
okay, so that happened.
Yeah.
But
And once again, while we're having this,
yeah,
I'm going to take my coat off.
yeah,
If you don't, I'm like, I don't have time for this, David Lynch.
yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, let's just move
You're
things
killing
along.
us.
Can we?
You are,
Yeah, yeah.
you are killing us from the inside out, David Lynch.
And somewhere somewhere in the editing booth, Lynch is just laughing his ass off. I have to think at this point, going, I know this is going to piss so many people off, and I love it.
This is going to drive everybody crazy. Let's keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't care. I got Showtime's money. I'm good. I'm going to do what I want.
He should have all of Showtime's money at this point. Showtime should just, any money they get
Pretty much.
should go to Liev Schreiber and David Lynch.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because I was at, of all places, Wendy's today for lunch.
Next stop, Wendy's.
Next stop, Wendy's. And on the television, the little television tubes, there was a commercial for Showtime. Guess which show was first in there? Like they're basically showing, like highlighting all their
And
programming.
this was today?
This was today. They're highlighting all their, like, hey, be sure to get Showtime on, I think it was on Dish Network or whatever. And they were like, oh, because we have all these shows. Guess which show was first? Of course, Twin Peaks. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. So
yeah, that is interesting.
So we're pushing Twin Peaks as our lead product, essentially, out of all our shows.
Well, that's the thing. They should be. I mean, it has gotten nothing but glowingly loving reviews.
Exactly.
So, and there's Chris saw an article online about how Twin Peaks is better than Game of Thrones, and people who watch Twin Peaks are more cerebral than people who watch Game of Thrones, which we just can't stand. Neither one of us likes it. It's like, why can't you just like both?
Exactly. Well, I like both.
What's wrong with you? Why can't you like Star Trek and Star Wars, DC and Marvel, Coke and Pepsi, The Who and Zeppelin, The Stones and the Beatles, Twin Peaks and Game of
Thrones? I've never gotten the rivalry mindset. Like that this absolution, like you have to like one or the other. You can't like more than one at a time. I don't get that personally.
You have to pick a side. Yeah, I don't understand that.
I don't do sides. I like, okay, if there's something I like, I'm going to like that, and then I have room in my life to like something else. And
exactly.
I have the ability to diversify a little bit. I'm not just locked into one thing. I think that makes you
unless it's the argument
yeah
of which is better, Backstreet Boys or NSYNC, because the answer is clearly Backstreet Boys.
I will take your word on that, because
that's the only one where I come down on one side fully.
So. I'm an 80s guy, so I'm not really into the whole Backstreet NSYNC debate.
Backstreet Boys won my heart when they did that stupid video with all of the monsters, the Wolfman and the Mummy and the Universal Monsters video. I was like, okay, this is kind of adorable, you guys. So, they won me over with that bit of kitschiness.
And that Justin Timberlake, he's so dreamy.
Oh no, he's in sync.
Oh, that's right. He is
No,
in
he's
sync.
not. Yeah, Backstreet Boys
That's right.
was
See, yeah, see, I
Brian
don't know this.
Luttrell,
Yeah.
AJ McLean, Howie Duro, uh, Eric, no, Nick Carter, and Kevin Richardson. I forget what
Yeah.
Kevin's name was. I'll have
I,
to look it up.
I don't know.
But
I was listening to A Flock of Seagulls and Art of Noise, so that's me.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
also good.
Yeah.
But and if you've ever seen, have you seen the movie This Is the End with Jay Baruchel and Seth
I've
Rogen?
seen parts of it on cable. I haven't watched the whole thing.
If you want to love the Backstreet Boys, watch the very end of that movie.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
But yes, there are some people some musical artists that will win me over with something completely not necessarily musical, and for me it was that video, that the Universal Monsters video.
Got it.
So yeah, that's the only rivalry that I actually do pick a side. I am 100% Backstreet Boys on that. Yeah. Oh, and Spy versus Spy. I have a favorite spy. It's Spy versus Spy.
Which spy, white or black?
So white, oddly.
White. I'm white
Yeah.
as well.
Well, actually,
The female spy.
Gray Spy. Gray Spy is my favorite.
Okay.
Yes.
I like. Yeah.
She's my favorite one. When it's just the two of them, it's the white one.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm totally with you. Yep. So that's the Spy
And I
versus Spy
think
from
it's because,
Mad Magazine, guys. In case you're wondering what we're talking
yeah,
about.
and with by the late great Antonio Perhias.
Yes.
I think it's because I've always sort of voted for the underdog in a lot of things,
Yeah.
and the white spy was the one that was killed in my first issue of Mad Magazine I ever owned.
Got it. So
I think that's what did it.
So
Because
that's just like just like your first doctor is the doctor that you stay with through the rest of your life on Doctor Who.
Right.
The first spy that you see dead is the spy that you like for the rest of your life.
The one that you empathize with, and the one that you wind up rooting for the next time.
Right.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
it.
When it really comes down to it, the gray one's my favorite.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
on a normal week, on a normal month for Mad Magazine, it's the white spy.
Right.
So, but that's the thing. There's no reason to choose,
No.
one great cable show over another. They both have their
Exactly.
moments, and they both have their for those Game of Thrones fans out there, they both have awesome cliffhangers.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. We watched got caught up and watched the season finale, and holy crap, that was amazing on Game of Thrones. So,
Oh my gosh.
all right. So, but
That was
remember, this is Ghostwood, so we'll get back to the Twin Peaks stuff.
It's too bad
Yeah.
that we already chose the name for our podcast.
Why? Because you could cover a whole bunch of stuff. That's kind of what we did with
Because you right with Fandom Zone, but you have another podcast called Next Stop Everywhere.
Yes.
We could call this podcast Next Stop Wendy's.
Well, unfortunately, that name wasn't until late, but that would have been a little confusing for me personally.
A little confusing, but just we've got Next Stop Everywhere and Next Stop Wendy's.
Next Stop Wendy's, exactly. It would have been a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep. And then that would make Fandom Zone like Next Stop Comics or something.
But I'm just thinking that we live here in Columbus, Ohio, which is the international headquarters of Wendy's. So I think their lawyers could find us pretty easily. But
well, hey, it's just we write them and say, hey, we want to promote your show or promote your product. So
we're going to promote your product by reminding people of
and we don't make any money for it.
Murderers.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
If they sent me a cease and desist letter that included a coupon for a Frosty and a large fry, I'd be like, all right, this is legally binding. As I dunk my fries in my Frosty, this is as good as a signature in blood for me. We'll stop it.
I can just go like, well, hey, here's all these past receipts of Wendy's that I've gone to over the years.
Seriously, my high school I went to a very small offshoot of Worthington High School, the Linworth Alternative Program.
Yep.
And we did not have a lunch facility. We were just you either brought your lunch or you went out and got it. And so Wendy's was my school cafeteria for 4 years. So.
And you never got tired of it?
That was, we did get tired of it after a while, but you always come back to the Wendy's.
Right.
Because at the time they had the waffle fries back then, so
Just
that
when
was
I get out, they
that was
pulled me back in.
they keep pulling you back in. It's like you can get sick of Wendy's all you want. You're never going to get sick of a Frosty.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying. So
All right.
anyway, yeah. Next up, Wendy's. So
Next
that
up,
is interesting that they're still showing commercials for Twin Peaks even after the fact.
yeah. Yeah, I thought that was
So
well. They were promoting the network, but yeah, it's like the show's over, so and they're still
right.
highlighting it. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. So
Come on, David Lynch. Let
yeah,
them give you a dump truck full of money and give us
yeah,
a season 4.
pretty much. Yeah, especially. Well, we'll talk about that later. All right. So one final scene in this episode. We go back to the road.
Very strange.
Very strange. We go back to the roadhouse, and so we get another rando at the roadhouse, and
Mm-hmm.
with a young woman named Ruby, who is
Yep.
sitting in a booth designed for 4 people. But she says she's waiting for somebody as a couple of like big muscly ne'er-do-wells show
Yep.
up, and they basically pick her up because she's just a tiny little girl, teenage girl. Pick her up, set her right there on the dance floor, and take her booth from
Take the
her.
booth.
Yep.
Yep.
They're not really dicks about it. They just kind of like, okay, this is, we're just going to put you over here. We're going to take your booth.
Yes.
Kind of dicks, but hey. So
All of Rick's moves are dick moves.
that's true. That's true. So Ruby just kind of sits there and stares for a moment, and then she starts crawling on her hands and knees. Hey, just kind of like Dougie was doing when he crawled over to the outlet.
Into the dance floor. She crawls into the
Yep.
dance floor.
She goes right into the
And
crowd.
then
The crowd. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And then she
starts screaming.
like big old scream, primal scream.
Like Laura Palmer screaming.
Like Laura Palmer screaming. So whether it's almost like like is it like a birth type scream, a rebirth type scream, or something
Or is
else?
she another one of those harbinger girls like we saw the first episode of the series, of the original series, the girl who comes screaming down the quad?
Yeah.
Something's about to go down when somebody just starts screaming and you're not quite sure why.
For no reason. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So,
For no apparent reason. Yeah, exactly.
So and that's kind of where we're left. And then, obviously the Roadhouse we get the band of the week, which is the Veils doing Axolotl, AXOLOTL, for those of you who can want to spell that. But Axolotl.
This will be on the test.
Yeah, exactly. Don't ask me what it means. I'm sure that it means something, but it's Axolotl.
It just rocks out the road.
It does sound cool. It sounds pretty cool though, and it's on the soundtrack. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much the episode, unless I forgot something.
That's pretty much the episode. We don't get a whole heck of a lot, except we get a lot of movement on Dougie.
I think the only other thing that maybe happened this week in this episode, I should say, so that Las Vegas FBI director, I guess he finds out that. He finds out that apparently Dougie Jones has been brought in with his wife and his kids, and
his family. He's here with his family, and his kids don't seem too happy.
So he goes in to see it, and apparently there's like some guy, his wife, their 2 kids. The one young kid is like crying, screaming his head off, and
there's like all in their pajamas. They've just dragged these people out of bed.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the most incompetent branch of the Federal Bureau of Investigation that we've seen so far.
Worst branch ever.
Worst branch ever.
Worst branch ever.
As my friend Leighton used to say, this is like Dr. Fives level of incompetent police. Like that's like the highest level of incompetent police officers the police officers in the abominable Dr. Fives.
Exactly. So needless to say, the FBI director not too happy about this. Wilson. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So I think that was about it.
Yeah, that was about it. But we did get confirmation that Richard is
Yeah,
still out in the middle of nowhere and has caught up with Doppelganger Cooper
right.
because he showed up when Red was killed.
Yeah,
Not Red, when Ray was killed.
right.
And we haven't seen Richard, but so he's still out. He's been following Doppelganger
Yeah,
Cooper this
apparently
whole time.
yeah, apparently. Now, whether Doppelganger Cooper caught on to this, I have to think he caught on to it.
I would like to think so. I
But,
don't like thinking that he's smarter than everybody else, but I think
Yeah.
sometimes he has his moments.
yeah, or unless he was just so focused, maybe he's distracted by the electricity.
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 Yep.
So, all right. So, what's your rating for this one? It's a very sad one.
Yeah, this one is very, very sad. But it was like not too much happened in this,
Yeah.
but what did happen was
Significant.
very poignant, very significant. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'm going to give this one 9 out of 10 crazy no way convenience stores.
And I'm totally in sync with you. I give it 9 out of 10 memorial logs.
Oh, that's nice.
So,
That's a good one. That's the thing. I think this episode gets, like I said, we didn't get a ton of movement, and we did get some weird things going on, but it gains probably 8 out of those 9 points for Catherine Coulson's performance.
yeah, it's more set up for the final episodes. Because
Right.
we got movement on the Dougie front. That was big. I'm trying to think what else. Obviously, with the death of the log lady, we took Steven off the table, and we got
Thankfully.
we got James and Freddie in a very important position, as we both know.
That's the thing too. I'm liking the Freddie McRubberfist.
Freddie McRubberfist and Drooly McBloodyface.
Drooly McBloodyface.
Yep.
Yes. Drooly McBloodyface.
I love that you came up with that.
Thank you.
That was brilliant. All right. So next time on Ghostwood, obviously we're going to talk about the return part 16 as we continue playing catch up, and that's not not extra catch up with fries.
I got to be honest with you. I have been trying to, due to some health issues that I'm having, I've been trying to stay away from junk food. But damn it, Chantel, she made me want fries. I had some Wendy's fries the other day, and I don't usually like fries. Right. I'm not a fries type of a person. When I go out somewhere and, you get a burger or the side dish is fries, I'm always saying, can I get mashed potatoes, or do you have like broccoli or corn or something? And even, when we do fast food, Chris doesn't want the drink and I don't want the fries. So it's like, we'll get a combo and then another sandwich.
And split.
I'll take the drink, I'll take the fries. Yeah, right. I don't want I almost never want fries.
But this time you did.
Damn it, Chantal! Which is interesting too, because
it's getting yeah.
Have you ever seen the original Hitcher? The Hitcher?
No.
With Jennifer Jason Leigh? No. Well, there's a scene in there where she makes fries for C. Thomas Howell.
Yeah.
And there's a finger in them.
Ah.
That's almost more of a Chantal moment than it is a
fry fingers.
Pitcher. Yeah. She makes fries in that, and there's a finger in one of them.
Nice.
In the plate of fries.
That's hilarious. Yeah, because it's getting to the point now. Instead of craving donuts when I watch Twin Peaks, at least for the return, I'm kind of like next stop Wendy's, wanting to watch, want to swing by Wendy's, bring it home, and throw on the Twin Peaks. So.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. I haven't done like fries and ketchup in a long time. I'm usually gravy or poutine kind of a person, or just plain fries, or whatever. Like, I like to get fries at Greek restaurants where like you have, whatever your chicken kebab was cooked in mixes with your fries, that kind of stuff. I'm not a big fries and ketchup person, but I just, damn it, I had to have fries and ketchup recently, and it was very tasty. I didn't feel the need to torture anybody, but it was nice. It was a nice throwback to childhood when fries and ketchup were like the epitome of the awesome food.
Nice. Nice. All right. I have to think though, I understand why Wendy's wouldn't do a tie-in promotional with Twin Peaks, but missed
Exactly.
opportunity in my opinion.
Well, I just want to say that, Wendy's, regardless, it's working. I've eaten at Wendy's because of Twin Peaks. So,
Exactly. I have to wonder if
I
they're.
don't think it's
I wonder
I
if they.
don't think
I
as
have to
bad
wonder if
of
they got
a
a small sales bump from this show.
right. Like every time you see Chantal and Hutch now, there's Wendy or Cheetos.
Yes.
Heck,
Cheetos probably got a
how
big boost off of that
Cheetos probably did get a big bump from
because
that.
Chantal goes through those Cheetos bags like Kleenex. She just pff.
Right, yeah, she's just all about the Cheetos. And I don't think this is necessarily like an M&M's level of
Yeah,
bad decision making. For those of you who remember the movie E.T.,
right,
E.T. was lured out of the garden shed by Elliot with a trail of Reese's Pieces.
right.
And they had initially thought of M&Ms, and they went to M&M Mars and said, "Hey, can we do this?" They say, "No, we don't want our product being associated with aliens." And then that year,
Yep,
I want to say that Reese's Pieces sales were up like 16 times
right.
what they had been the year before.
Yep.
Some ridiculous number of revenue that they've never been able to replicate thanks to ET. So,
And this is what happens when some empty-headed business suit makes the call. So, well
when
done.
Steven Spielberg wants to put your product in his movie,
Yeah.
you just let him do it.
Pretty much. Like, are you? Yeah. If you have any kind of business sense whatsoever, you have to think it's a good idea. All right. So yeah,
Exactly.
next time we're going to talk about the Return Part 16. It's a big one as well, and looking forward to talking about that with you next week.
Yay!
Yay! Until
This is
then,
exciting.
yep. As we continue to try to dodge talking about the finale. So in the meantime, where can they find you on the interwebs, Zan?
I'm on Facebook as
Yeah.
Zan Sprouse, and I am on Twitter and Instagram as Udinax19. What about you, Charles?
Of course, I'm also on the Twitter machine at Charles Skaggs, also on the Instagram at Charles Skaggs, where I've posted a bunch of Doctor Who related photos from my trip, if you want to check those out, recently.
Yes, you did.
Basically, like, I tried to do like exact shot replicas too, whenever possible.
Nice. I
So,
liked your London Eye. I liked your London
yeah,
Eye
thank
photo.
you.
Did you like my comment on your London Eye
I did.
picture?
I did. That was great. That was
I
great.
just said run. I said,
Yeah.
by the way,
Yeah.
run.
Run. Yeah,
So
exactly.
for those
Very,
doctor, and
very
then I
nice.
did hashtag fantastic.
Very
Because
nice night, Doctor.
I really liked Christopher Eccleston's Doctor Who.
I was very
I
disappointed
was
he
very
didn't at
sad
least
to see
do
him
one
go.
more season. But
Yeah.
Eccleston, yeah, there's some issues there.
And I love him at the end where he says, "You know what?" He says, "Let me tell you something, Rose Tyler. You were fantastic, and you know what?
So was I.
So was I."
Yep.
I'm just like, "Oh, come back!"
Yes. Yeah, it was great. Really disappointed that he didn't return for the 50th anniversary special.
Yeah.
Day of the Doctor. All right. So, Facebook, of course, for me, and Google Plus for all you crazy kids in the Google Plus, and damn good coffee and hot. Damn good coffee and hot. My blog of geeky things, which starting back up again now that I've been off for a couple weeks, but slowly getting back into the groove. And I'm hoping to maybe, if I can find the time somehow, to write a post Twin Peaks The Return wrap up. So,
Okay.
or at least like maybe at least maybe review the final episode there.
Okay.
My thoughts. So we'll see. We'll see if I have time because still catching up on work, still feeling a little bit of jet lag. I've got about three weeks of comic books to get through from being away. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And not to mention all the stuff on my DVR. Holy crap! So we'll see.
Well,
we'll see
and It comes out this weekend.
Oh
so
yeah,
that's where I'm going to be.
And It comes out this weekend. And you're right. And hey, my other two podcasts that I do, Next Stop Everywhere, not Next Stop Wendy's, Next Stop Everywhere.
Next Stop Wendy's.
the Doctor Who podcast they do with Jesse Jackson, and the Phantom Zone podcast they do with Karen Lindsay, right here on Southgate Media Group. So please check those out because that would be cool. And if you would, please follow us on Twitter at GhostwoodCast. That would be great. And also Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast on Facebook, where we post all kinds of cool things. Like Zan posted this great Mole Man mashup of Dr.
Hans Moleman from
Hans Moleman from The Simpsons as Dr. Amp, which was pure brilliant in my opinion.
It was one, yeah. I didn't make it. I just found it. So.
That's all right. You found it. That's all that matters. Yep. You're sharing it. That's all that matters.
And yes, please subscribe to us and review us.
Yep.
On your preferred podcast outlet.
Yeah, because that helps people find us. So if you do subscribe to us and makes us a little more noticeable on the iTunes, that would be great.
Yep.
Then and also please leave us a rating if you would. If you want to drop us a line, let us know what you thought of the finale, or just Twin Peaks: The Return in general. Please email us at ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com. Haven't gotten any mail lately, so would love to hear from you guys. I have to think you have one or two thoughts on the finale. Yeah, maybe if you're stunned, hopefully the shock and awe wears off, and you'll drop us a line because we miss hearing from you. So I know we've been on hiatus, but we're back. So we're gonna get ready to wrap this up, and no excuses, people. So thanks everybody for listening to Ghostwood. Glad we're back, and I missed you, Zan. So I'm glad I had fun.
I missed you too, Charles.
So
it was.
Thanks for
keeping. It was not as fun watching the finale without you guys here.
I know. That's going to be one of my lifetime regrets because I had so much fun watching the premiere over at your place. So I would have been a great way to bookend it. So David Lynch,
my friend Mike and I had a great time, and we had a few hours of perplexion afterwards, but it was a good time.
So David Lynch,
did you see that did you see my photo? I made blue roses.
Yes.
Yeah, I made blue roses.
That's awesome.
Which, for those of you who remember your rainy day activities from when you were children, you take white roses.
Okay.
Cut the stems at like a 45-degree angle, maybe sort of cut them like halfway, so they're sort of short and squat.
Yeah.
And you put them in water that has been infused with lots and lots of blue food coloring. and then in a day or so, you've got yourself some blue roses.
And turn your fingers blue in the process.
Well, it's not if you're careful with the bottle. You just got to, very gently, squeeze it out of there. So, but yes, there were white roses on sale at Aldi for like $4 a half dozen.
And you dyed them. That's awesome.
And I dyed them blue. Yes, so I had donuts and pie and blue roses for the finale.
You always go all out, and that's awesome. I love that you do that.
I try to be ceremonial whenever
well, this was a big deal. So David Lynch, you have to do season 4 because hey, I got to do this finale right this time. So
that's right. Seriously.
So you got to do more episodes so we can do like another finale attempt, and hopefully I can make this one. So that would be great. If nothing else, because hey, you've got a lot of things to wrap up, Mister. So
you've just tempted us with wanting more.
Exactly. But thanks for everybody, and we'll see you next time right here on Ghostwood Twin Peaks Podcast. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.